Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Good evening, members of council and viewing audience. If anybody joined us on YouTube, thank you. We'll have a moment of silent reflection, before we start, land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge that the ground on which we live is the traditional territory of the Caldwell First Nation of the Three Fires Confederacy and the original people of Point Pelee and Pelee Island and its surrounding lands and waters, and that of the Huron-Wendat and Wyandot peoples. We recognize and respect the First Nations who are stewards of the land and waters of Turtle Island and who have embraced this stewardship since time immemorial. We would also like to acknowledge the contributions of other nearby First Nation communities and all original people across Turtle Island. Now we'll have a moment of silent reflection and the playing of our national anthem. Thank you. Okay, sorry about that. Members of council, you've had a chance to look at items on the agenda. Is there any disclosures of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none, we have Sue Desjardins and Deputy Mayor Meloche not be able to attend this evening. So I'd like to adopt the minutes of the closed and regular meeting of council held April 26, 2022. Councillor Carrick, Councillor Reno, all in favor? That carries. Thank you. Mayor's comments. I just have one. I had to write it so I'd stay on cue here. It's been my great pleasure and honor to serve as mayor these past 4 years. After great consideration and eternal debate, I have made the very difficult decision not to run for re-election. My 4 years as mayor and 8 as council member have been some of the more humbling and rewarding years of my life. I'm incredibly proud of the work we have accomplished in service to and servicing our great community, and will cherish the relationships and memories created. It's time to spend more time with my wife, my family, and I want to be a proud Pipe, which you'll probably see me around town at hockey, baseball, and different events. Wishing everybody the best and move on to the next chapter. Thank you. We have first report is E number 1, 2022 fleet purchase. Mr. Beggs.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. The report before you tonight is for the purchase of a full-size snowplow. This is a replacement of one of our existing trucks. The budget for this purchase was $350,000 approved in our budget this year, and our pricing through Sourcewell came in at $307,907. With all the delays and extra costs going on this year with all sorts of equipment, we're being told the delivery time for this truck will be around 2 years, which is about a year longer than what we have typically seen for snowplows. So we will not have to pay for this until we get it, obviously. And it will, so we will save the money until we get the truck. Hopefully our existing truck can hold on. It's our spare truck right now, so we should be in good shape. But I think this is something we can probably anticipate with all of our purchases like this, where the timelines on these things are going to be quite long. So this report is to purchase that truck and pull the trigger and get the order in. If there's any questions, I'm available.
Councillor Carrick.
Just went through your worship. So 2 years from now, the way prices are going up. So is this like a locked in value? They can't come back and reassess us?
I wish it was 100%, but what we've seen so far with some other things is the vendors often come back with, all of a sudden there's a mysterious tire tax or all kinds of other things. So right now, the entire vehicle industry almost seems like we're at their mercy. And so we need to get the order in. And I think that's the best that we can do right now. We don't know for sure if there will be increases or not, to be honest.
Okay, thank you for that upfront answer. Thank you.
Just to follow up, if I could, is there a cap? Like they can't say it's now going to be 600,000 and we have to take it?
Yeah, I don't think so. It's like I said, we have a price, we have a quote. We hopefully we can, that where it's going to be that. But what I have seen with some other things is, you know, when you finally get it, there's a extra $1,000 for something. It seems like that's the new way that they're doing business.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Councillor Reno.
So thank you, Your Worship. My question would be for Dale. Dale, would we just keep that entire 350 allocated off to the side then, just in case some mysterious tire tax comes in or something? Would we just keep the whole 350 and then we'd be pretty well protected for another $42,000?
That's correct. We'll keep that within our fleet reserve. That's where we fund all of our fleet from. And I think I was talking to Mr. Marmara. I think this was purchased through our LAS procurement group. So they do a lot of the pricing and get competitive bids for us. Through our procurement policy, we're allowed to purchase through them. So hopefully, given that's a large organization, the prices won't change significantly. And this is definitely a challenge moving forward. There's a report coming either next council meeting or the meeting after on some of these different challenges that we're currently facing. So this is going to be talked about in that report as well, because it definitely is a challenge with the supply chain issues and whatnot.
Okay, thank you, Dale. Thank you, Mark.
Councillor Akpata.
Thank you, Worship, through you to either of the gentlemen that just responded. If for some reason the price of the vehicle doubled, what do you see to be our recourse? I understand that there might be some extra added prices. I've experienced it myself in buying lumber for my house and things that I've wanted to do, but I'm looking at a substantial increase in, because of whether it's because of the blade, whether it's because of the lack of chips. I understand what we're going through right now, but what is the cutoff point where we say we've budgeted X and the orders come in at a 50% increase?
Well, we always do our due diligence. If that happened, we'd absolutely bring it forward to council. We do have the ability, a little bit of flexibility if things change a little bit. But if it was that significant, we would definitely come to council. We are constantly building up our reserves. You know, we are earning interest on these reserves as well, and the interest rates are starting to go up as well because of this inflation. It's all kind of intertwined, but it is definitely a very large challenge. And as Mr. Beggs mentioned, in many cases, there's not the ability to negotiate anymore because someone else is going to buy it if we don't. And that's definitely a challenge that not only us, every organization is facing, not even just municipalities.
Thank you, Worship. That's the answer I was looking for.
Mr. Militia.
Just perhaps one other comment. Again, we're finding this on all fronts. It's not just on the vehicle purchases, but we find ourselves in a very difficult position because although, you know, we negotiate and try to get the best deal possible, one of the challenges we have is that, you know, in this case, no, I don't believe that the price will double, but let's say it did. We need the truck to plow the roads. So we are very much at the vendor's mercy. And with respect to the vendors, they're also at the mercy of their own supply chains as well. So it's not just whoever the vendor happens to be for whatever particular product or material or service we're buying. So it is a challenge that, as Mr. Langlois indicated, is being faced across all organizations, profit and nonprofit, mush sector and beyond. And so, you know, the difficulty we have is that in some areas we can defer. We can say we're not going to buy that blank, fill in the blank. On snow plowing, that's a more difficult item to defer on. So that we are a bit at that mercy at this point. But to date, we have seen some price escalation, but it is in the relatively minor amounts. It is not the doubling effect just yet. So hopefully we don't get to that stage.
Any questions? Councillor Reno? Moved by Councillor Reno, support Councillor Dicho Spagnolo. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. 2021 year-end reports.
Your worship, members of council, these reports are required to be adopted by council annually. The auditors require that as support. A little bit later in the agenda, I will be speaking to the 2021 results in a little bit more detail, but I'd be happy to answer any questions on these reports.
Thank you, Mr. Langlois. Council's pleasure. Questions? Councillor, moved by Councillor Carrick, support Councillor Reno. All in favor? That carries. Draft and outdoor illumination bylaw, noise bylaw, animal bylaw, and parking bylaw.
Good evening, your worship and members of council. The report before you tonight outlines the amendments to the animal control, noise, outdoor illumination, and parking bylaws. We've made improvements to all these bylaws and enhancements for enforcement and improvements to language. Since the original preparation of this report, changes and improvements have been suggested and will be included in the final draft, which will be before you on May 24th. Some recent improvements which have been suggested include language with regards to the use of a visible leash, changes in further enhancing the enforceability of the bylaws, and a change to the the daytime in which, or the time at which the amplified music may be played at, moving from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Myself and Roxanne are both here and available for questions regarding the bylaws. Thank you for your consideration.
Councillor Carrick.
Just one question. I know I read through it. The enforcement procedures as far as fines, can you just review that for us? What's changed there?
Is there a particular bylaw which you're referring to?
No, the overall fine itself was increased and some areas are able to be fined now as opposed to others.
Generally speaking, with regards to all the bylaws, they are moving into the AMP system. With regards to each offense has different values as far as the fines which can be charged. So in most cases, the amount of the fines has not increased, but it's the way in which we'll be able to collect those fines through AMPs.
Okay, so basically I was just looking for the ability for us to charge larger sums of money. Does that make sense? As opposed to before, to make sure that they stay in compliance or there's a little more teeth to what we're dealing with.
Good evening. We can't, through the AMPS program and through the provincial offenses notices, tickets, for example, there's only a set amount fine that we can impose on a resident. Particularly with the AMPS program, we can't make the penalty punitive in nature. We can only make it as high as being a deterrent for any violations. Is that what you're looking for?
That'll have to do for now. If I come across it again, I'll bring it up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Reno.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to thank Alan and Roxanne. Reading through this, especially the noise bylaw, seemed to be some improved language. As many people are always questioning, times of day and things like that. They're very clear now in that schedule. So thank you for doing that. And moving forward, I've read through them once. If there's any small things, I'll bring it to the next meeting. But thank you for your work. It looks good.
Thank you. Councillor Ekpata.
Thank you, Your Worship. To Roxanne or Alan, if you don't mind. Another municipality was on the front page of the Windsor Star after they changed some of their bylaws as relates to feeding of animals. And I've reviewed this. Can you elaborate on how we intend to deal with that in the town of LaSalle so that the persons who enjoy feeding wild birds understand what they're able to do?
Certainly. The new section, that was one of the new sections added to the animal bylaw, because we do receive quite a few complaints with respects to feeding of wildlife. And a lot of the problem has to do with people throwing food on the ground and not cleaning up after that, which attracts hundreds of animals. So the bylaw does allow for feeding of birds as long as they're off the ground. The bird feeders are a certain height off the ground, and that you're maintaining the area around it on a daily, weekly basis.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Ekpata. I just have one question and relates to what Councillor Carrick asked. I know we don't have a specific fine, but for example, if someone's not doing what they should be doing and you hire a contractor, and just to pick a number, the bill to do that work is $1,300. That is given to the homeowner to pay, or it's added to his taxes. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. We don't make the invoice amount. That is done by our tender.
Right.
And that tenders, I think, every 2 or 3 years. So that's based on the hourly wage of our contractor. And that invoice is added to the property tax for the homeowner to pay.
And one more question. As the enforcer, are you happy with the changes?
Absolutely.
Good, thank you. Okay, council's pleasure. Councillor Ekpata, Councillor Di Spagnolo, all in favor? That carries, thank you. Information items to be received. Mr. Langua, 2022 first quarter report.
Worship, members of council. So far this year, we are tracking fairly consistent with our budget. We are monitoring it very closely this year, given the rapidly rising rate of inflation. It really hasn't hit us that hard as of yet, which is good news, but we'll continue to keep an eye on that. It is early in the year. Some good news to report. Although the recreation center was shut down for the month of January, the Vollmer Center is bouncing back to pre-pandemic levels. The arenas are pretty much back to normal, looking at February and March levels. The gym, there are some areas such as the gym that's climbing back a little bit slower. The memberships they are starting to climb back, but not to pre-pandemic levels. But the good news is the financials are definitely looking a lot healthier than they were last year. So hopefully, knock on wood, moving forward this year, there is no more shutdowns and we can continue to work to pre-pandemic levels. I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Council questions? Council's pleasure. Moved by Councillor Reynolds, support Councillor Di Spagnolo, all in favor? That carries. Thank you, Mr. Longo. We like good news. And you're up again. Fourth quarter, 2021 fourth quarter report.
Okay, so it's a little bit out of order. Probably should have talked about this one first, but that's okay. So given everything and that's happened with COVID and whatnot in 2021, it was actually a very successful year financially. There was a fairly large deficit in the culture rec department and the emergency measures budget, the extra amount of money that we had to spend related to the pandemic. Those were the areas that were significantly over budget, but we did receive some extra one-time federal gas tax funding, as well as our state restart funding to help address the COVID pandemic. And then there were many other areas where, all of our departments and divisions are very cognizant of their budgets. There were a lot of areas that were a lot, significantly under budget, which really helped with our situation last year. So it was, given the circumstances, it was a successful year financially. And I would be happy to answer any questions if there are.
Council's pleasure. Councilor Akpada.
Through your worship. So Dale, just to make sure that I understand what you said, and I think I do, you're satisfied with our finances?
I am satisfied with our finances. There are some challenges coming forward with the unique circumstances we're in. You know, I know you asked this question at all times, and I usually like to give the answer that we are financially stable, which we are, but there are some challenges with inflation, supply chain issues, and some other unique extraordinary circumstances that we're keeping a close eye on. So there are some risks and some moving forward. We do have some plans to address them, and there will be a detailed report coming to council shortly, just to keep everyone abreast of our current situations.
Supplemental, Dale, but those challenges are not unique to the town of LaSalle. They're what's going on with everyone. Is that what I understand?
That's correct. They're not just related to municipalities. It's not regionally, it's provincially, federally, and globally as well. So we're dealing with the same issues as every other organization and municipality.
Thank you, worship.
I have a question, then Mr. Militia is gonna, okay. We'll go with Councilor Carrick. You have a question? Yes. Okay. No?
All right, thank you. So along Councillor Akapata's question, overall, when you compare us to other municipalities, as I've often told people over the years, that the town of LaSalle is in good shape outside of the variables that we talked about. So does that make sense? That we can still say that, because if you're comparing municipalities to municipalities, I'd like to think that we're still in really good shape.
Absolutely. We are in really good shape. We compare ourselves often to other municipalities regionally and province-wide. Just as an example, you know, whenever we do have some surplus funds available, we've really focused on the last number of years building up our tax stabilization reserve. And when there are bumps in the road or unusual extraordinary costs, such as, you know, our garbage collection contract, our upcoming or curbside organics collection, this tax stabilization fund can be used to help smooth out these unexpected increases in costs. So that's an example of some good financial planning that's occurred in the town of LaSalle over many decades. Our reserves are very healthy. We have our capital plan that we presented during the budget session. Everything's falling into place according to the plan, and we adjust as necessary, but it's more of an informational, and you know, when there is a bump on the road, we need to adjust, but we are still accomplishing all of our goals, moving towards accomplishing everything in our strategic plan. Just costs are starting to rise, but financially, we are in good shape.
Mr. Militia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And again, Mr. Langlois has noted a number of programs that we've had ongoing here for a number of years on the finance side. But I think we would all be remiss in terms of the year 2020 and 2021 were very, very challenging for us, much like many organizations, but certainly municipalities have some difficulty in scaling back services that are deemed essential to the population. So I would say that while our planning in the past has helped us get through the last 2 years, I think that the team that Mr. Langlois has in finance, as well as all the department heads, have done an exceptional job of trying to manage costs during these times, and trying this particularly, I note even in the culture and rec area where we've had some devastating losses of revenue in those areas, and we're seeing those rebound, which is a positive sign. But we've done a really good job of managing those costs and managing staff while still continuing to provide those essential services. And certainly the management team has done an exceptional job. I'd also even point to our staff. During this time, we've had to reassign staff from what their normal duties would be to other duties. We've had a mix of rotations in terms of remote working and non-remote working. We've had a shift in terms of how our facilities have been opened and closed and rotationally open and closed throughout the pandemic. So it's been a lot of shifting and pivoting that a lot of our management team has done along with the support of the staff. So as much as we've had some really good base in terms of the financial planning that we've done to allow us to be flexible with the funding and some of the reserves that Mr. Langlois had spoken to, certainly there was a lot of shifting, pivoting, twisting and turning. It was a Chuck Berry song just made to be made there, and I tell you, the team did an exceptional job of trying to adapt almost on a weekly basis in terms of some of the changes that we had. So again, congratulations to everyone as we go through this. Hopefully, we are still in a pandemic situation in terms of the virus, but certainly on the road to recovery, and hopefully continue on that way.
Thank you, Mr. Militia. I think we were set up, Dale, because after your report, you said, I'll be happy to answer any questions. So is there a question you want us to ask?
You know, you've kind of already asked all the questions, so if there's any more, we'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Langlois. Council's pleasure. Moved by Councillor Akpata, support Councillor Carrick. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Summary of reports to council. Moved by Councillor Carrick, support by Councillor Reno. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Okay, just a couple comments here on the bylaws. So the following bylaws be given a first, second, and third reading and finally pass. Bylaw 8691, a bylaw to temporarily provide the chief administrative officer of the town of LaSalle when certain authority to allow for business continuity in the event of council being restricted in its authority pursuant to section 275 of the Municipal Act 2021, and bylaw 8700, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 8600, the town's comprehensive zoning bylaw as amended. So on first, second, and third reading. Moved by Councillor Akpata, second by Councillor Carrick. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. And the third bylaw, 8688, a bylaw to provide for the maintenance, improvement, and realignment of the Cahill Drain in the town of LaSalle in the county of Essex for its third reading and finally passed. Councillor Reno and Councillor Adiccio Spagnolo, all in favor? That carries. Thank you. And council questions. Councillor Adiccio Spagnolo, then Councillor Akpata.
Thank you, through you. Just a question in regards to the new dog park. Will there be signage available at the park for small dogs and large dogs? That was one question that I did receive. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Certainly, there are two aspects of the dog park. There is a large dog area and a small dog area. There will be proper signage provided there, along with rules and things of that nature. It will be out there shortly.
Just the one question, Councillor? Okay. Councillor Akpata.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is going to the Public Works Department. If someone could answer this. I was out and about and had some questions about the tree cutting near Fiorina, and just some of the residents that live in the area of Donato Drive were asking about that. And I don't know if it's going to go to Mr. Marr, or I see that Ms. Beggs has lit up her microphone. So just looking for some information to get back to the residents, if you don't mind.
Sure. Thank you for the question, Councillor Akpata. So that particular area, I believe that you're referring to, we were made aware that there was some activity going on there. And myself and Mr. Osborne reached out to the owner about the activity that was taking place. And so we were told that the owner was undertaking some private drainage works on site. So the property is currently zoned residential, R2, I believe, with the holding provision, but it's also designated in our official plan with a natural heritage overlay across the site. And what that overlay means is that it's subject to further study prior to any development taking place at that location. And so as a result of that, the Conservation Authority started to ask some significant questions with regards to the activities that were taking place, and an investigation has been launched into those activities by the MECP.
Supplemental. So the town of LaSalle is assisting or on the side as the investigation proceeds? Do we have any fingers in the pot, or are we waiting for the investigation to take place and then we're going to be made aware as to what the outcome of their investigation is?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the investigation is being conducted by the MECP. We're participating and adding input and providing some statements, but they're quarterbacking the investigation.
Thank you very much, Your Worship.
I just want to add a comment on that piece of property. As when that started, we received a few calls and it's private property. He can cut the trees down. Now there is an investigation and they may have to do whatever they do, but it's beyond our control. I just want people to realize that we're involved, but there's nothing we can do. It's private property. We can't tell him you have to do this or you can't do that. So just so that's clear.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other council questions? Statements by council members. Reports from committees. Notices of motion. Confirmatory bylaw, all 3 readings. Councilor Reno, Councilor Dicho Spagnolo, all in favor? That carries. You have your scheduled meetings. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you, viewing audience. Have a good night. Stay safe.